There's a hilarious new report out from CNN about how Republican officials thought they could stop Donald Trump. So they explain here. Republican officials who oppose Donald Trump as their party nominee have spent the last few days, ever since the withdrawal from the race of Cruz and Kasich, wondering if there's anything they could have done to prevent this outcome. Top officials of the Cruz campaign are convinced there is one specific step that could have stopped Trump, and they blame Senator Marco Rubio for not taking that step. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, wait, what does Marco Rubio have to do with this? He dropped out eons ago. How does that make any sense? Well, the idea is that the Cruz campaign reached out to the Rubio campaign, and they said, all right, here's what we're going to do. You are going to be my VP, and that's going to be the way we stop Trump. Now, apparently Rubio said no. He had no interest in it whatsoever. But people in the Republican establishment are absolutely, positively convinced that if at the end, instead of going with Fiorina, if the Cruz campaign was able to get Rubio, well then, hello, dream team here. We got Pippen and Jordan, and obviously they're going to take down Trump. I mean, don't be stupid. That's how it's going to go down. As I read this article, I thought there's never been better evidence that the Republican establishment is massively out of touch with even their own voters. Because all their predictions every step of the way has been dead wrong. And this one would have been no different. They're like, no, totally. This was the solution right here. If we had a Cruz-Rubio ticket, man, they would have destroyed Trump. Except there's no reason to believe that whatsoever. Marco Rubio was polling at negative 800%. He lost his own home state. So he's not popular in any way, and Cruz is deeply, deeply unlikable. And the only places in the country that he has appeal are places that are super rural and only indicative of those places. They're not representative of a mood in the country at large. So, for example, Cruz wins in places like Iowa, but towards the end of the campaign, he couldn't even win in similar places. So his appeal was limited to begin with, but then later on in the campaign, Trump started overtaking him even in those states, which is why he lost Indiana. So this idea, like, all they're doing is revisionist history at this point. They're like, well, if we did X, Y, and Z, well, then we totally could have stopped Trump. Why didn't we think of it? We're so silly. No, if you did that, you also would have gotten your asses handed to you on a silver platter, and you would have been scratching your head in the same way you are right now. So that's not true. Here's what they don't get. Donald Trump actually has appeal to working class people. Rightly or wrongly, I would say wrongly, because I think he's a liar, and he has a history of being a con artist. So, I don't think he'd actually do anything for those people, but he is appealing to those people, and he's getting their vote. So, for example, on trade, he says, no more stupid free trade deals. We're going to do protectionism. We're going to slap tariffs on products that were made by U.S. corporations that moved outside the country. 35% tariff on your product there. Now you're going to want to move back to the country. He says stuff like that, and guess what? People like it. So even the Republican base, everybody thought all along, like, the Republican base voter, they care deeply about free market, laissez-faire, conservative ideology. No, they don't. The only reason they were voting for Republicans all along is because they thought that, these people are representing me, these people are fighting for me. Now, they're not. The Republican Party has not been the party of the working class. But people thought, well, they want to keep my taxes lower, so that's why I'll vote for them. But over time, it became obvious, well, these guys all want to outsource all our jobs. It's fucking crazy. So Donald Trump comes along and he's like, no, I don't want to outsource your jobs. I want to keep your jobs here. So now a lot of blue-collar workers are like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Again, wrongly, because I don't think he's going to change anything. His own fucking ties are made in China, so he's a massive hypocrite. He benefits from outsourcing, and he's attacking outsourcing. But at least he's using that rhetoric, and that's why people go to him. Another issue that he just crushes the other Republicans on, Social Security. On Social Security, on Medicare, he said in the debates, I'm not going to cut it. I'm just not going to cut it. I'm not going to cut it. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, both on stage like the giant idiots they are. We have to get serious about our fiscal situation, and we have to cut back. It's always, we have to cut back on programs that help you. Notice, they never say we have to cut back on the shit that doesn't help you, like our needless, unnecessary wars and our 900 military bases around the country and our billions of dollars in subsidies, which is a corporate welfare check every year to big banks. You never have to cut back on those things. But when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, we got to cut. We got to save our nickels and our dimes and our pennies here. Come on, what are we doing? Trump comes along and says, I'm not going to cut it. So he argues for things like that. And also, let's keep it real, he's just so much more honest about race in the Republican Party, where the other, Republican candidates tiptoe about it and they speak in coded language. Trump says, I hate Muslims, I hate Mexicans, I'm going to ban all Muslims from entering the country, I want to deport 11 million people. And so what you have is this xenophobia and bigotry that's pervasive in the Republican base, and a guy who's just saying it, no more coded language, and a guy who's actually populist on economic issues with his rhetoric. And then people go, that's why I like him. So you could have put together Rubio and Cruz. You could have put together Jeb and Scott Walker, who I know that these people thought would have been a dream ticket as well back at the beginning of the race. You could have put together whatever establishment Republicans you want. They wouldn't beat Trump. Why? Because they are establishment. That's the problem. The problem is you. All the people in the GOP establishment like, well, how could we have stopped him? No, the whole paradigm is the problem. Is that you are the ones asking the question, how do we stop him? The voters dislike you. So whoever you put up, they're going to go, well, they're represented by those guys. So, we don't want that. We want somebody who's seemingly anti-establishment. So whatever, cockeyed, cockamamie answers they come up with today, it's backseat driving. They have no clue. And they could say all they want. Oh, and at one point in the article, they say, we have internal polling that would show that Cruz and Rubio would crush Trump. No, you don't. No, you don't. You made that up. You made it up. They're like, oh, yeah, totally. It was 65% of the vote they got. Really? I'd love to see that. This is the same kind of internal polling, by the way, that Mitt Romney had when he ran against Obama. And on election night, why it took a while for him to concede? Everybody's like, why doesn't he concede? He got crushed. But he was backstage with his people going, but we had internal polling that showed that we beat Obama. Yeah, I'm sure they use the same pollsters. Cruz and Rubio would beat Trump. My ass cheeks, they would. They've been wrong every step of the way, and they're going to continue to be wrong. They just don't get it. They are the problem.